Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
And our highlight series from Tal'Dorei, the Critical Role campaign setting, continues. This time we're looking at Feats.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
We're delving back into the Matt Mercer Critical Role campaign setting, Tal'Dorei. I believe I say it wrong every time. So there's a couple things we should have pointed out in our earlier highlight videos. I guess we'll do it now after reading the comments and the critters are coming to yell at us. So essentially, we don't use pre-written material ever in our actual games. We homebrew everything, but what we love to do is steal ideas from other places. So yeah, it's true. We have not read the whole thing and probably never will, because we don't actually care about the campaign setting that much. I'm sure it's great, and if you guys are using it, awesome. That's why we're doing more of a highlights. We're just picking out things that we would use in our own games, and maybe we're not getting some of the context for some of the other things that have been mentioned. But this is how we use it and the things that we like about it. And hopefully between this and maybe some other reviews out there on the interwebs, you'll find these videos helpful and useful for you.
All right, so we're diving in, and this time we're going to talk about feats.
Okay, so we get a handful of feats here. I think I see like 9 of them. Now, the first thing I will say is none of these are like, oh my god, I would not allow this in my game. They're all fairly balanced. Some of them, if anything, might be a little bit underpowered.
I would agree with that assessment as well.
Most of them weren't like, man, do I need my character to take this feat?
I think there are some things that I see when they are put together, they're like somebody wanted to do something, and the creators decided, well, the way to make that happen is to do this.
Is the feat.
So I'm not gonna go in order here. So specifically, rapid drinker. Somebody wanted to say somebody's drinking a lot of healing potions, and to down one as an action is just not good in combat. So I was like, well, what can I do it as a bonus action? I'll take my free interact with an object to draw it, and boom, down it as a bonus action, and I can still take my, blah, blah, blah stuff. Great. But doing that as a feat isn't really enough. So you've got to flavor it with other things.
You also get advantage on any saving throw triggered by ingesting an alcoholic or dangerous substance as well. So this is not thematically, it's kind of cool, but it's not a good expenditure of a resource like a stat bump or a feat.
It is a feat, but it's not for the average player. This is for someone specific in a specific game where you're drinking heavily and you're constantly making saves versus being drunk, or
you're constantly making bad decisions,
or you're constantly in combat with an abundance of healing potions and no cleric, and you need to down those healing potions to stay alive.
For the first part of this, I think I know quite a few real life people that would benefit from it.
So, like, to me, that was one that stood out as I read this. As a an experienced gamer, I saw this as there was a need for a change in the mechanics, being able to do it as a bonus action, and the feat was created to fill that niche, and then built out from there to make it powerful enough to say, okay, well, that's worth sacrificing for because I want that one ability.
The actual magical ones are a lot more useful, and they're pretty interesting. We get a couple of them. We get dual focused, flash recall, and spell driver. Those 3 let kind of change what you can do with magic as a spellcaster.
All right, so flash recall I thought was pretty impressive. For classes that actually have prepared spells to be able to say, all right, I'm going to quickly change something out because I need it now, whether it be a resurrection or whether it be a lightning bolt because he's vulnerable to electrical damage. It's a great way to swap things out. All right, so you get to do it once per rest, and that is incredibly useful if you feel that you come upon that problem often enough.
Yeah, if you're in a campaign that, favors taking short rests, this is going to be a really useful ability. Well, it could be a really useful ability because you're going to have a lot of opportunities to switch things out, throughout adventuring. So yeah, it's kind of cool. I like it. It's flavorful, and maybe if you're a player that often just chooses the wrong spells, like this could be a lifesaver for you.
Now, if we go on to dual focused, this one, I know many spellcasters over the course of our games have sought something like this out, and I kind of think what's here is interesting, although it required a lot of mechanics to be written to figure out, well, how does this work? But it's a feat that allows you to concentrate on two spells at once.
Yeah, I mean, it's not overly complicated. I don't even know if, as a GM, if I require the con save just to maintain two spells, because that's all you can do. It's not like you can't cast any more spells. Your action every round is just concentrating. So essentially, every round you have two spells going on, and most of the time when you would want to do this, generally there isn't a lot of spells that are offensive that you'd want to concentrate on at the same time.
Or that, you concentrate on one offensive and one defensive. So like if you had something like Sunbeam, okay, well that I can blast, but it takes my action to be able to do that. So
Yeah,
if my action is concentrating, then it's not really.
yeah, and that's going to be the hard part is finding those spells that go together and make it. So I actually, this one might be actually a little bit underpowered. Like it's conservative, which is fine in design. I've often thought, as well as a GM going, what, I wouldn't mind there being circumstances to give players the ability to do more concentration stuff as special rewards. I did a special familiar for a character where I was going to allow the familiar to actually maintain one of the concentrations.
Mhm.
So that being said, yeah, I'm for this one. I would probably tweak it a little bit in my game and actually make it a little bumpy. And then there's Spell Driver. Spell Driver is kind of cool, and for any kind of class that lets you use spells as a bonus action for whatever reason, then you're going to be able to then you could technically cast another spell, except for the spellcasting rules don't allow it. What Spell Driver does is, first of all, there's a prereq of the character your level has to be 8th in order to even take it. And what it allows you to do is cast a second spell of 3rd level or less around. So, say you were to Misty Step as a bonus action, you could then cast Fireball or Disintegrate or whatever you really wanted, because your Misty Step is lower than
Right.
3rd level. So I think it would add some interesting opportunities. It would work kind of cool with maybe War Magic or some other things that are in the game. There would be special circumstances that would make this really cool. It'd be a lot of fun with an Eldritch Knight. Because you could use your bonus action to actually cast a spell, and then you could action surge and cast a spell, and you could just cast a spell. So you could have some fun with that. I don't think it's going to break the game.
You're still limited by the number of spell slots that you have access to, regardless of what your caster level is, and
You're just going to eat through them faster.
you're going to eat through them faster. You might eat through the enemies faster, but that just inspires the DM to put more enemies in front of you. So next thing I wanted to talk about was Mending Affinity, and this is I think kind of going along with the guy who needs to heal more because he's being beaten in combat far too
You feel
often.
like both of these feats were just designed for the same player character.
And that's the way I'm seeing it. So number one, you get your con up by 1. So you're really only sacrificing a single stat bump for the rest of this feat. And what you get out of it, I'm pretty impressed with. When a creature uses a healer's kit to stabilize you, when you are dying, you also regain hit points equal to your proficiency modifier. Not a huge amount, but that's literally 3 points of healing. Now it's only when you're being stabilized, so I can't apply a healer's kit to you while you're up and heal you. So like that's specifically worded for that. But anytime you regain hit points as a result of a spell, potion, class ability, you also regain hit points equal to your proficiency modifier. So that to me says, well, that's a lot of extra healing that you're going to wind up getting out of it. not so much during that first tier, but when you get to the upper echelons and your proficiency modifier is a 6, oh, I cast Cure Light Wounds on you. Well, Cure Light, or Cure Wounds as a first level spell, that's a D8 plus their Wisdom modifier. They might roll lower and have a low Wisdom, and they give you less than what your proficiency modifier is getting. So you more than double as a potential on that.
Also, things like Healing Word that don't give back a lot. It's going to give it a boost on. Yeah, I see this one. At first, I wasn't feeling it. I'm like, I don't know if it's worth it. But then I'm like, you know what? If you were to take this as your first feat ever, whether you're human first level, you take this, not a bad choice because you get that bonus to con, and you're going to get a cool ability, or whether you just take it at 4th level when you first get it. But over the course of your adventuring career, that's going to add up to a lot of hit points you're getting back. And even things like, not action surge, even things like second wind for the fighter, this would apply to too. So, it's going to continue to be helpful and useful over and over again.
So I looked at this and I see like this is probably one of the pumptier feats that's in here. Not anything that I would disallow. I love it as is. But I think this one is probably the one that's cresting that threshold. I saw it instantly as you want to take this at first level, and you want to take it for a character who's hardy, who's used to being in brawls, because you've been patched up so much that you just shrug it off.
Come to think of it, I think Uthengar has an odd con score. So another one worth mentioning is Mystic Conflux. This is interesting in the sense that when it interacts with magic items and the number you can attune with, it gives you one more to a maximum of 4, and it also you also have advantage on intelligence arcana checks when investigating the nature of magical object or device.
So that part I think is actually pretty cool. I've seen campaigns where DMs or players aren't being overly cautious. Like they don't check on how many things people have attuned.
They're cheating. Is that what you're saying?
I wasn't gonna say that.
They're just not following the rules.
They're just not following the rules.
It's your game. You can play it however you like.
I just feel like attunement is kind of a new concept, and players didn't really have to deal with that in editions past. And now, okay, it's a limitation on powerful magic items. You can only have 3. So when DMs are creating their own magic items, well, they might not be thinking about whether it requires attunement. Or when a player writes it down, they're not used to dealing with, oh, well, does this require attunement or not? And, oh, well, do I check to see what other items I have that require attunement? Like, if you were making your character in a character creator like D&D Beyond or what have you, you could have those slots filled up. Okay, these are the ones that are attuned. All right, well, now I can't add another one.
So Cruel is another feat that and adds a new mechanic to the game. It's not at first I was like, oh, how does this interact with everything else? Because I guess that's like anytime you add anything new to the game, that's what you have to consider is like, how would this interact with the other abilities? What is the price they're paying for it? And honestly, it's not bad. You can do an extra D6 per cruelty point you spend. You get the same number as you have proficiency bonus. That's fine. So you're going to max out at 6, and you can only use 1 per turn.
I wasn't really liking this feat. When we look at over the course of a game or an adventure, I want my players to be heroes, and this one to me does not speak to the hero. So I was not feeling it.
Okay, well, I can totally feel that. You don't like the flavor of it because it feels like this is a heel, this is a bad guy type feat. Now, maybe you would want to add this feat to one of your bad guys.
Well, there's that possibility as well.
You could be able to do extra damage. When he crits, he gets a D6 back, he heals. And the other ability is when you make a charisma intimidation check, if it involves inflicting pain, you can spend the cruelty point to gain advantage on the roll. So yeah, I can see why as a GM going, I want heroes in my game. And the torture feat is not one that I'm digging. So I can see that. But balance-wise, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not overpowered. It's just not flavored in a style that I think fits the game that I want to run.
Well, what if the character is actually a physician? and he just knows about anatomy and physiology.
But it doesn't say, knowledge anatomy. It says cruel.
That is true. I'm just saying you might be able to reflavor it to something that reflects your palate a little bit better. Then there's Throne Arms Master. When I first read the name, I was like, yes, finally we have something to fix those characters that just want to throw things at people. And it's not exactly what I thought. It's not really on same vein as the Great Weapon Fighter or the Great Weapon Master, or on the vein of Sharpshooter. So, like, I was a little disappointed that it's interesting, but you really got to want to throw things really bad. So first of all, you're going to get a bonus to your strength or your dex. Secondly, simple and martial weapons that aren't thrown weapons are now thrown weapons in your hand, which is kind of cool. So one-handed weapon 20-60 for range, two-handed weapon 15-30, kind of cool. Weapons that are naturally have the thrown property increase the range by 20 and 40. That part is really nice. You could hit with a dagger from 30 feet away and you're still in short range.
See, I read this thing, and the thing that pops into my mind is a scene from Braveheart where he hurls the sword across the battlefield. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that was this. And I like the thing at the end where it says when you miss with a thrown weapon attack using a light weapon, the weapon immediately boomerangs back into your grasp. So it's kind of weird, but you at least got the thing to be able to throw again.
So what I would say about Throne Arms Master, it has a lot of cool and style points. But actually, if you're talking about building an optimized character, this is like one of the best ways to waste a stat bump you could possibly use.
So do you want style or do you want power?
Exactly.
That's kind of where you have to go. And the last one that we have here is Gambler. And it's what you would expect. It's somebody who is interested in playing games of chance. It's going to increase your charisma score by 1. You gain proficiency with 2 types of gaming sets. All right, the skilled feat gives you 3 proficiencies. Well, here you've gotten 2 proficiencies, a stat bump, and then you get other things as well. So this one's kind of wonky. But because the things are so niche...
Here's what I would say to that. You can technically learn languages and tool skills for spending gold.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I would say that it's not really comparable. Because you can get, with the skill feat, you can get skills, and they're technically, other than multi-classing, isn't really any other way of getting them.
All right, so the other things that you get, you have advantage on charisma deception checks to bluff opponents in games of chance, and charisma persuasion checks to convince others to join, which is awesome. You have a reputation as a card shark in some circles. Some folks may avoid playing you for this reason, while other gamblers might seek you out. I love that aspect of it, that you taking this feat winds up giving you a reputation. Hopefully you're playing the character in a vein that you didn't just, oh yeah, I'm going to take this feat now. You've
kind of been doing that all
right.
along. It goes hand in hand with things like criminal, charlatan, maybe even soldier. I think it's fun, and that leaves we still didn't to go with the coolest, most fun aspect of it, I think. And that is when you take the carousing downtime action, you may re-roll any result once. You have to take that result anyway. But yeah, so you get to have a little bit more fun when you're carousing.
So all in all, awesome feats. Nothing that I would disallow. Some that I know people who would be highly interested in taking those feats for their characters. Hands down, that's them. So, what do you guys think? Are you playing in Tal'Dorei or not? Do you like these feats? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Check us out over on Facebook.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.